Hi, I'm Mindy Peters, the Solutions Manager at SPI, and over the next 3 videos, I am going to give you a fundamental understanding of what Zapier is and how you can use it in your business. Now, many of the videos that I've created already on this channel use Zapier at some point in the workflow, and recently a member of our SPI Pro community who is using Zapier asked if I could create some training on the basics of Zapier, because even though he was already using it, he was a bit nebulous in terms of understanding some of the terminology that Zapier uses that impacts how much it costs to use Zapier. So what is a task versus what is a zap, things like that, as well as just really understanding what is Zapier doing and what are all of the ways in which I can use it. Because once you start using Zapier, it is an incredibly powerful tool that can help save you a ton of time, streamline your workflows, with selling products, with marketing products, things like that, even just managing your productivity on a day-to-day basis. But it can be really confusing to sort of figure out how it works and how to get started with it. So over the next 3 videos, I hope to help you build that foundational understanding. In this video, we will talk about just what Zapier is, and I will just quickly show you some ways in which we are using it here at SPI, just so you can see sort of the breadth of sort of possibilities that you have with this platform. In the second video, I'll help you understand what apps that you are already using might work with Zapier, and then specifically, if that app works with Zapier, what are the ways in which it works with Zapier? How are the ways specifically that you could use that app and use Zapier to help you with that app? And then finally, in the third video, I am going to take you through some of that terminology. So answering those questions of what does Zapier mean when they talk about a zap versus what do they mean when they talk about a task, which is going to help you estimate how much it will cost your business to work with Zapier. It might be free, it might be really expensive. It sort of depends on how you plan to use it. And in that third video, I'll help you get a better understanding of how to estimate those costs. So let's dive into this first video where I'm going to talk to you about what Zapier is. Now, throughout this discussion, I am going to probably end up using the terms platform and app somewhat interchangeably. And when I'm using those, what I mean is any software as a service tool that you might be using. Maybe that's your email service provider, something like ConvertKit or MailChimp. Or maybe that's a marketing and sales platform like Teachable or Kajabi for courses, or Stripe for just taking payments, or a tool like, say, Samcart. Shopify would be included in that as well. And then another example might be a document storage tool like, say, Dropbox or Google Documents, Google Sheets, things like that. Any one of those is sort of what I mean when I say app or when I say platform. Any online business that is running today is going to be working with a lot of different apps. Just sort of, you get started maybe with one, maybe just like an email service provider or a course sales platform like Teachable, but then you find over time you start stacking up more platforms as you want to do more things in your business. And what you will find over time is that you need a way to move data from one platform into another. So a big example of a way in which we need to move data at SPI is we sell courses in Teachable, but we don't want to use Teachable's built-in email sending service. We want to use our own email service provider, ConvertKit, to send out emails. So somebody purchases a course in Teachable, but I want to email them out of ConvertKit. I need a way to get that email address out of Teachable and into ConvertKit. That means that I need a way to connect these two platforms together. The platforms recognize your need to pass data from one system into another. And so they will often write a bit of custom code that will directly connect their platform with another platform that they know that their customers use. And that bit of custom code is called an integration. This is a common term, and you will see it again and again as you look around the different platforms that you use. Let me show you what I mean. So here I am in my email service provider. This is ConvertKit, and you can see they have a section in here called integrations. It's under the automate subheading here. And these are all the various platforms where ConvertKit has worked often directly with the other platform to create some custom code so that you can directly connect and pass information from one system into another. So you can see here we have activated a few different custom integrations. Teachable is the one that we use the most here in ConvertKit. Now, another platform here, let's look at Demio. Demio is a webinar provider, and in the customized section for building an event inside of Demio, you'll see at the bottom here we have an integration section. And again, if I click on that, that lets me integrate ConvertKit directly in with Demio. So when somebody registers in Demio, I can pass their information, their name and their email address directly into my email service provider. So one more platform here just to show you integrations just shows up again and again in your platforms. I'm in the settings here in Teachable, and you can see that there's an integrations menu in here. I'm not going to click on it because it's got some personally identifiable information, but you see that term pop up again and again in your platforms. And anytime you do, it is very worth exploring and seeing what different apps, what different platforms has this platform created a custom connection with, because that is going to make your life a lot easier that you can pass data from one service to another. The problem though is sometimes you won't find the service that you're looking for. Maybe you're using a brand new platform and your other platform, so like let's say I was using a brand new email service provider that was like really niche specific for my type of business, right? So it was worth it to me to switch to that platform. But maybe Teachable, where I'm selling courses, hasn't even heard of that platform yet, or there's not enough of their customer base using that platform to make it worth the time of their developers to go and create a custom integration. Or maybe the problem is not that an integration doesn't exist. Maybe one does, but maybe there's a little bit of information that integration still doesn't allow to pass through. And so you find yourself stuck. You find yourself in a position where the two tools that you're working with don't talk to one another. And so if you want to use them both, you end up having to manually move data. Maybe it's like once a month, you have to go and export a whole bunch of data out of one system and import it into another system. That's really inefficient, and that can eat up a lot of your time as a small business owner. And so this is where Zapier fits in. Zapier is kind of a universal integration in that it acts like a bridge between your two platforms that don't talk to each other. You put Zapier in the middle, and Zapier is really great at receiving information and passing information on. Another way to think about Zapier would be like an old-fashioned switchboard, where you have a switchboard operator you call up, and they are taking your call from, say, like your home in like rural Minnesota, and they are patching you through ultimately, like say, to a business in London, right? They are connecting your phone line with their phone line. So Zapier sits in the middle and helps you get your information automatically from one place into another place, even if those places don't talk to each other directly. Zapier is your mediator. So what does that mean? What kind of data can you pass from one system to another? Let me show you a few ways that we're using it at SPI, sort of the breadth of ways that we're using it to pass data around. Here I am in the SPI's Zapier account, and you can see I have just a whole bunch of different zaps going on. So let's look at one. And Zap is the term for basically the recipe, the automation that we're using. And we'll get more into that terminology in the third video. Here's a Zap we set up that's related to event registration. You can see I titled it Event Registration, Hey Summit to ConvertKit. So what we had here is Hey Summit, and Hey Summit is a relatively new platform for holding online virtual events. It's a place where you can hold, say, like an online summit. We just recently held a big summit based on audience growth and audience building. And what we needed to do, because Hey Summit was so new, we didn't have a way to connect Hey Summit into our email service provider, which is ConvertKit, to say when somebody registers in Hey Summit, we want to add them to our email list. So here is our Zap that is going to pass information from Hey Summit into ConvertKit. And you can think about it a little bit like a light switch. And I've used this analogy in videos before. With a light switch, you have a trigger and an action. The trigger is flipping the switch, and the action is the light turning on. And so with Zaps, you have a trigger and an action. Our trigger here, the switch being flipped, is anytime a new attendee is added into Hey Summit. So anytime somebody signed up, I want this automation, this recipe to start. So when somebody signs up as a new attendee, then I want to take their information from Hey Summit and I want to do an action. I want the light bulb to turn on. And my action is in ConvertKit. I want to add a tag to that subscriber. So I want to put them into ConvertKit and I want to store some information about them. So in this Zap, I am passing data from Hey Summit over to ConvertKit. And specifically the data we were passing from Hey Summit to ConvertKit was name and email address. It was that simple. Here's another way that we are using Zapier to move information around. In this case, we are taking form submissions and we are putting them into a system for managing those submissions, Airtable. So Airtable is a content management system. Let me show you the form real quick that people are filling out. This is our SPI Pro application for people who would like to join our online community called SPI Pro. We have an application here and we are collecting different information. We're collecting name, email address, and then details about their business. And based on the questions that they answer, based on how they answer the questions, different questions will show up. They'll fill out this information and they'll hit submit. And that information goes into Gravity Forms. Except that we don't want to store that information in Gravity Forms. Essentially in Gravity Forms, to look at it, we have to sort of page through each one individually. And, it's not easy to work with in there. Instead, we would like to work with it in Airtable. And in Airtable, we can do some things. We can apply some automatic scoring to the way that questions were answered. We can manipulate that data a lot easier and decide if somebody is a good fit for the community and should be invited, or if they're not quite ready yet to be invited into the community. So we need to get that information out of Gravity Forms and into Airtable. And there's not a good connection there, and so we use Zapier. And so we have a recipe set up here so that anytime you can see here that Gravity Forms has a new form submission, then Zapier will start working, and Zapier will take all of the information from that form submission, and they will create a new record for us in Airtable with all of that information. And so Zapier is helping us get all of that form data out of Gravity Forms and into Airtable. Now let me give you a productivity example. So SPI is a team of 11, 12 people, and we are people who are full of ideas and we like to share them with each other. And where we like to share them is inside of Slack. Slack is really great because then we can start having conversations about those ideas. But it is a terrible platform for storing ideas in that, if I share an idea with the team today, a month from now, if somebody wants to go back and read about that idea, they have to scroll back in the timeline to find that idea. And it can be really inefficient in terms of recalling past information. And so what we have set up here is we have set up a Zap that very specifically lets us take any idea that is a marketing idea. You can share it in a specific channel in Slack, and if you give it a hashtag, then Zapier will intervene and automatically put that idea over in a Notion board, which is a much better place to store that marketing idea, because then we can just go into that board and see all of the ideas that have been shared and filter through them, move them around, work with those ideas in a much more efficient manner than storing them in Slack. And so what this Zap is doing is saying, anytime a new message is posted in Slack, but we have a filter in here, and specifically that filter is looking to see if that new Slack message contains the hashtag idea or the hashtag ideas. If and only if that message has that hashtag, then it will pass that idea over into our database in Notion. And so one thing that's really cool, and as you start to get more advanced with Zapier, is you can start to put in conditions that filter down things so that you can go from a really sort of general task and make it very specific. Now, this is a paid feature, and I'll talk more about that in the third video. I'm going to show you two more examples here, one related to sales and then one related to fixing mistakes, which happens more than we would care to admit, right? So I've made an entire video around this specific Zap, but what this Zap is doing is saying, when there is a new sale in Teachable that meets some very specific requirements, then I'm going to enroll that Teachable user into an additional course as a bonus. So what we're doing here is saying, when we're running a sales promotion, if somebody purchases during that sales promotion, we're going to give them an extra course in Teachable, or an extra workshop in this case. Finally, fixing mistakes using Google Sheets as your trigger. Now, this is one of our favorite ways to use Zapier at SPI. And when I say we, I mostly mean me. You make mistakes sometimes. Sometimes you accidentally import a spreadsheet of users and you put them in the wrong place. You apply the wrong tags to them, or you say move a bunch of people into a group in your community and you suddenly realize, oh shoot, I shouldn't have done that. I don't want them in this group. I need to remove them. And there's not an easy way to sort of do that in bulk. So in the case of the Zap that's on the screen here, you can see that we were using Google Sheets, and anytime someone was added to a row in that Google Sheet, and we were using it to both remove a member from a space and circle and remove them from another space and circle. And that was because we just made a mistake moving some spaces around between space groups and circle and accidentally added basically 500 people into a group that we didn't want them in. And rather than go through and individually remove each person one at a time from that space group, I could use Zapier, starting with a spreadsheet of everyone who needed to be removed from that space. I could use Zapier to do that for me automatically. I've tried here to sort of show you the breadth of the way that we use Zapier at SPI, but this is really just very much scratching the surface. These are just examples that are relevant to our business, but based on the apps that you're using, there are so many possibilities. So in the next video, I am going to walk you through how you can look up to see which of your apps that you're already using work with Zapier, and then how to take a look at that app and see what are all the ways in which you can use it to start brainstorming some opportunities that you might have for working with Zapier. I'll cover that all in the next video. If you've watched this and you're really eager to get started and you can't wait for that next video, the place that I would send you to start is to go to zapier.com/demo. And on this page, Zapier has a lot of great information, a really good overview of how Zapier works and how to get started with it. As I said at the start of this video, I'm the solutions manager over at SPI. And if you're new to SPI, go to smartpassiveincome.com and you can check out all of the fantastic resources that we have. We are really dedicated to helping you learn how to run an online business more efficiently, more effectively, in a way that really helps you ethically serve your audience so that you can help the people that you got in business to help. We want to help you free up your time and get better at building your audience and making more money from your business. So go to smartpassiveincome.com.